So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Stan Renard to talk a little bit about using OER in his music class with our humanities librarian, Emily Cox. And so we can see they worked really heavily on a blog with students in the class. So this will be an exciting, different way to use OER. So.
Okay, great, super. I'm Dr. Stan Renard. I run the music marketing program here at UTSA, which is a very multidisciplinary program that lives in the music department, the Department of Music. And one of my basic survey courses is this MUS 2263 Intro to the Music Industry. I worked closely with Emily on developing a platform. And so anyway, I'll get right into it. So it's a survey course that covers a lot of topics. Anything from music distribution to copyright and licensing to branding to, you name it, it's in there, And I was looking at textbooks, and I used textbooks in the past, and they're pretty expensive. But my biggest issue, they're not current. The data was old. By the time it hit the shelf, it was old. And it's ridiculous when I have to say to the students, hey, the data is not good. Go to this link, and the data will be accurate. Why am I not using the link right away and bypass the entire textbook? So that was the idea here. Besides, I wanted to engage them. So I saw, a few observations. Often students do not buy the textbooks because they can't afford them. That's, out of my students, I'd say at least half of them never bought one, because they couldn't, they could navigate the course without using it. It's probably my fault, but at the same time, they would have bought it if they could afford it. When they did buy it, they do not read them consistently. So there was another observation. So I wanted to create a system that makes them accountable for reading, for the readers, okay? And finally, what I just mentioned, the currency. Textbooks, as soon as they are published, they are already updated. So we tried to find a solution, and the solution was to use free available resources that were timely. So whatever was usually blogs, podcasts, and YouTube videos or other type of videos, right? And articles that I would find that were still relevant. And we wanted to engage them. So I had access to tons of resources. I sent in a list that, I've been collecting this list of resources. I have probably thousands of links. I can't use all of that, But we tried to find a couple of resources that made sense for the students for each topic, and we structured that this way. So I'll let Emily talk a little bit about the platform that we used and how we engaged them.
Right, so pretty quickly after Stan got the grant in the spring, I approached him about possibly putting the open resources he used on an open platform for a few different reasons. So if you know Stan or see his energy, he has a very entrepreneurial spirit, and I thought maybe he'd be willing to try something like this. Also, by taking it to a blog platform, the students could then have that link for as long as the blog is up, so they can return back to it, and especially for music marketing students, it's very career-oriented, and they're going to be going into jobs more than likely in the music industry after they graduate. So they could possibly take this blog link to potential employers, internships, and say, hey, this is what I'm doing in class. And also Stan is a national, international figure in the music industry and has a lot of partnerships with different people. And I told him this is something that you could then take and show people, hey, this is what I'm doing in class. I know that he has a pipeline program with a local high school here.
East Central High School.
Yeah. So the platform we use is called Humanities Commons. I'm the humanities librarian here, so I had a little bit of familiarity with the platform. So it's run through the Modern Language Association as part of their scholarly communication division. And so one thing you can do is it's basically a repository where scholars can put teaching and research materials. And there's also another function where you can create WordPress blog sites. So Stan and I created a course readings blog through the Humanities Commons platform. And we spent last summer basically building out this platform, adding the functionality. So every day, students had a different reading, a video, or a podcast that they could look at. And we also worked on creating a rubric for students, which was really interesting. So every time the student commented on that reading for the day, they had to add another link to a resource that they found that was related to that reading. So by the end of the course, this kind of non-traditional textbook had hundreds of links to different readings on issues in the music industry. And so in the fall, the first day of class, I went to the class with Stan and I helped students get registered for the blog. So this allowed them to, when they commented, they had their photo or whatever they wanted as their avatar, so they felt like they were a part of it. And also talk to them a little bit about some of the information literacy concepts that we're interested here in the library, and talk a lot about students as information creators instead of just consumers. So this URL was open where they could send the actual URL to anyone they wanted. We decided to not make it search engine searchable in like Google and things like that. Just to sort of tell students that they were working somewhat in the public, but it wasn't going to be open to Google.
It's a lot of content.
Yeah.
One thing I love about this, and I learned that from how you teach audio technology. So the way we teach audio technology, if you just teach it in class, you're wasting your time. You need to send the how-to over, between the classes, and then in class you do it, right? It's just the experiential part. I wanted something of this nature because I wanted to cover all these topics. It's a lot of content. And some of the students complain that it's a lot of content. But hey, you're paying for your education, you're paying for content. So, you're getting what you're paying for. So, but anyway, I wanted them to, they only had up to the time of the class to read and post. But I also, I'll show you a little bit, what my rubric were, right? A little bit later. But they had up to the time of the class to post it for full credit. But they had to post several sentences plus a link. So the idea of the repository is that if you were the first one to absorb the content, the first one to post, you had a lot of flexibility. Now if you're the second one, you have not only to read, but now you have to read also the comment of the first person and look at their link, so you don't post the same link, and so forth. So if you're like the procrastinator that is going to post 5 minutes before class, now, it's not really going to happen for you, because you're going to have to read all of this content. So it encourages them to be the first ones to do it. Well, of course, it's not always the case. And I did accept late assignments, and it was timestamped. So as you noticed, what I mean by timestamp, so let's say I click on this, and it said, okay, October 31st, and this one was posted at 12:32 p.m. Now, my idea of the repository, I'm reusing this for my next class. And I might add or more content, raise the standard even more, and then they're going to all have to read all of this and add to it. So the difference between this and Blackboard is at the end of the semester with Blackboard, it wipes it all out for them. They don't have access. We have access to it, but the students don't. Here, they always had access. So Emily mentioned something about the pilot program I created in the community. It's the only music business 2-year program in the high school in the country. It's right here in San Antonio. They're going to get a Grammy for it. It's awesome. But anyway, it's huge. They have 80 students. It's a natural feeder program for us. We just get students. It's awesome. But they needed to build content. There is no textbooks for high schools, right, in this field. So I provided them with all my material. Of course, it's too much for high school groups, but the faculty member who works with me over there was able to adapt it. So it has a lot of capabilities, and I really enjoy that kind of work that we've done since then, the state of Georgia has asked us to basically do this in all our schools. So it's really taking off. It's pretty cool. Let's get back to this. All right. Sorry about that. I wanted to show you the blog a little bit. So it takes a little while to get back. Okay. All right. So in terms of the blog, as I said, I wanted them to, and I monitored. I don't want swears. I don't want any kind of content that doesn't make sense, or if they just trying to post very general comments that don't have any meaning. I wanted a general comment. Did they enjoy? Did they learn something? Did they not learn something? Most of them did. And then something specific. I really was this particular topic really piqued my curiosity, and then they post a link to another article, because I'm only one mind. But now you have all these, I had 26 students in this class, so I had 26 students, and then what does it do? It increases my bank of links, my bank of resources for the future, because I get it from them. So they provide content, which, there's so much content in the music industry. So that was really helpful. So they all had to include a link, and all the links are there. In terms of the surveys that the students took, what was the most important for them was when they use a textbook for a class, price was the most important, and is it, can they use free or free resources? So that's the two top answers. Overall, how much would you say your blog contributed to success in this class? Or you got cut off. In my class, it was about 70% said that blog contributed to their success. Okay, so here a couple of students, quotes from my surveys and some of the surveys that we took in the library as well. I have no preference with or without the textbook, but this class really seemed to be interactive without using the textbook. I feel it was easier to grasp the information, retain it, rather than me going home and reading it straight from the book myself. The blog helps a lot. It's easier than going to buy a textbook at school, because I always have a way to go and find the information if I ever need it. So that was good.
And Stan, you have a really great line, and I just want to make sure that you get
Oh, this one?
No, something you said in the past. But, so a lot of students think, they go in, oh, no textbook, so you might think you have lower expectations for the course, but you're actually telling them, no, I actually have higher expectations.
I do. Because they're accountable. Because it's time-stamped. They're basically grading themselves. It makes it easy for you to grade them. If they, posted a comment, it fulfills the rubric, they put a link, something that, is not a general link, easy to find. That's it. They get their the check mark for that particular reading. So that made sense for me. It was easier for me to grade them, rather than trying to have a conversation about a reading in class that the whole class had to do, and you don't know who did it. Obviously you do, because there's only one or two students who always answer the question. In that case, they're all more engaged. So the overall engagement was improved. So I had a couple of other fairly positive reviews for this. We had a couple glitches, but I taught a course that was called Leading Change. It was a business course in a previous institution. And the whole idea of the course was I kept on changing the platform every 3 or 4 weeks. Oh, and then I sent them service. Oh, they hated it. But that's the world we live in. You need to adapt. You need to be adaptive. So this is, the fact that it doesn't work, but it really did work. Sometimes they couldn't log in with their own profile. They had to post as a guest. But there was always a solution. And the second day of class, we brought the students here to the library, and you did a coaching with them. So that was really useful, and I think they enjoyed that. So my takeaways for this, it was a perfect fit for my class. It made sense for this particular class. It helped me reinforce the relationship with Emily, which is really important for me. And also between my students and the resources in the library. A lot of the students I find at GTS don't even come here. You know, so we have to bring them here. So it was great to bring them here the second day of my class. My students almost never come here because we have the music resources in our own building. You know, but now they are coming. So at least that's my perception of it. And also, you know, I direct them to meetings here, I create events for them downstairs and so forth. So it's nice for them to see. At least that's the way I see it. Obviously, we don't agree on that, but that's okay. It allowed us to build an open source repository that we can reuse, keep reusing, and that's important for me. And it made students accountable, so that was good. It allowed to implement VR technology. I used the money from the grant to buy, 20 VR headsets. So one portion of the technology, the videos now are all in 360, 4K. So you're inside the video, you're inside the band. So that's one part. Another one is selling tickets. You can visualize your seat and look in the room. So instead of like having a just chart of the concert hall you're going to and just clicking and having no idea how far you are from the stage. Okay, so that VR technology is really taking on. So that was very useful for me. It allowed me to attend a couple conferences to learn more about the content that I'm going to implement in this class. And I'll never go back to a traditional textbook for this particular course. Not now. I mean, I think this really makes total sense. I like the blog. I like the platform. I think it works for us. So that's what I have. Thank you, Emily. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.